Where'd my pen go? Shoot. No, my dry erase. There it is. I was hiding. Are we rolling? Okay. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome. Today is a beautiful day. I'm Jeremy, your host. This is the Genesee County Compassion Club show, and I'm coming to you from allpointstv.com. All right. We're talking about medical marijuana. Man, I'm glad to be back in the studio today. It is a beautiful day outside. Gorgeous fall day. John, how are you doing?
Real good, actually. I'm just enjoying this weather. Yeah,
excellent.
It's amazing.
It is beautiful, isn't it? Are you enjoying that monster sandwich?
Not yet, but it smells so good in here, man. I just like saying, I got a friend here saying, oh, okay, I don't know if he's going to get a piece of this or not.
Cool. Well, we got some delicious food down at the Growing Concern. If you guys haven't been into the Genesee County Compassion Club in a while, you should definitely check it out. Get yourself something to eat, because the food is awesome. But at any rate, let's get rolling. We got a lot of stuff we want to talk about today. We're going to talk about Michigan mainly, and we're talking about medical marijuana. We've got a lot of stuff going down at the Genesee County Compassion Club, so I want to get you up to date on that stuff as well. I know we've got a big Halloween party coming, so mark your calendars for that. We're going to be staying open late. We're going to have special menu items. We're going to have special door prizes, events. There's costume prizes. There's all kinds of stuff going on, and it's going to be a lot of fun. That is Tuesday on Halloween, very simply. So just come on down to get out of work, or if you're available during the day, swing on out. We'd love to see you, and it's going to be a blast. Make sure you dress up and be festive. It'll be good times. We had our soup kitchen last month. It was excellent. We're going to have another one here coming up here last Friday of the month. We are finished with Adopt a Highway for the year, so that's checked off. Another successful year of Adopt a Highway, and thank you for all our volunteers that came out and helped out with that. Definitely want to encourage you guys to show up for the soup kitchen. Holiday season's always a busy time down there, and it's a good opportunity to serve and to give back to the community and to continue to be a representative of our industry. All right, so please do that. Please sign up if you can. Please be there if you can. All right, let's get into the meat and bones. All right, we've got a lot of stuff going on with medical marijuana here in Michigan, and there's a slurry of information I want to share with you today, and let's just get into it. All right, so one of the first things I wanted to talk about is something that I briefly mentioned on a previous podcast, and that is the bills that are being introduced through our legislature right now to continue the operation of said dispensaries or provisioning centers, compassion clubs, whatever it is you want to call them. Essentially, we are well aware that the department, the licensing board that is formed to create the rules around the new medical marijuana program, sort of jumped their bounds and started talking about, when the current businesses should close. Now, we've discussed this at length on the program, and just to make it perfectly clear, the board, the licensing board, has zero authority to make that decision. It is not a decision that is in their hands. It is something that is up to local law enforcement, state law enforcement, or attorney general, so on and so forth. It really isn't even something that belongs to the responsibilities of L.A.R.A, which is the department that board is working for. So there really is no, I guess there's no meat and bones behind that statement. It's not happening. So the fallout behind this is if places are going to close and going to do that with the purpose of reopening and being licensed under the new program, what are patients supposed to do in the meantime? We're talking about a downtime potentially of up to 12 months. And I know that they're saying that the applications will be started to be accepted on December 18th. However, they're already starting to say they might have to push those back. And I would expect that that is going to be the case. So there's certainly going to be a gap in coverage for patients in their accessibility to medical marijuana during this time period if we have all of these businesses closing and simply with the expectation that they will be able to open again in the near future. So that's good for the business, but what do you do for the patient? The concern here is for the patient. That's what this law was passed for, is for patients. And so that's what the concern is. So these bills, they were introduced both in the House and in the Senate, and it was specifically to address this particular issue. They have not yet gone through, and they have gained some traction in both the House and the Senate. However, they have not passed yet. And what they would do is they would simply say that, if you are one of these businesses that are operating now, you would have the ability to stay open until I think that stated November of 2018, when the licensing board and L.A.R.A would have time to actually take applications, review them, approve or deny them, and allow these businesses to actually start opening and operating. So it's going to take some downtime. They understand that, and we know that we don't want to have patients without accessibility to their cannabis, and this bill would protect those businesses and allow them to continue doing business as is until they receive their new license. There was an interesting article that came out just the other day, and it was from our Senate Majority Leader, Arlen Meekoff. Now, for those of you that aren't aware, Arlen Meekoff was definitely influential in getting this new set of medical marijuana bills passed this last year. All right, he is a Senate Majority Leader, so he's certainly a very powerful man. He has also been known to be in association with the lobbyist groups that tried to get this bill passed. So you can take that with a grain of salt, whatever. At any rate, he came out and said just yesterday, and this was in a local newspaper, basically stating that he doesn't like the idea that those who may be bending the law now might somehow be allowed to keep their dispensary business running in the future. His personal quote was, "I'm kind of struggling with the idea that these people are operating illegally now, and why would we want to continue that?" So this is from the Senate Majority Leader, so certainly these bills face opposition. It's not a done deal. There was certainly support for them when they went through their committees in both the House and the Senate. However, they have not gone yet to the floor for a vote. And if the Majority Leader, Senate Majority Leader Arlen Meekoff, he's a Republican, he's a Senate Majority Leader, if he is saying that he doesn't like the bill, then there's certainly going to be a whole slew of Republicans that will follow and step right behind him. So we don't know if this protectionist type bill will actually become law. It definitely needs some support if it's going to become law. And what protection does it actually provide? Well, I don't know. Is it necessary? I don't know. I don't think the state police are going to be running out to close these businesses, across the state. However, we have seen them do so up in areas like Traverse County. And in fact, there was an article just on MLive a couple days ago about how the state police had actually gone to the county prosecutor and asked specifically for a cease and desist to be performed on all of these businesses in the county. It was not performed, and instead the state police went in and raided these businesses, closed them down. I don't know if any arrests were made, but the businesses were raided and they were closed consequently. So, different ways of handling things. It's certainly a scary atmosphere for business owners out there, and we don't know exactly how these are going to be administered. And so we may very well need a type of protectionist bill like what we're talking about here to provide that protection, mainly because, as I stated, it is going to take at least up to a year for these new businesses to be approved and to be to come online in a sense and to become available for their patients. So what is this patient supposed to do for the next 12 months? Their very cold response was just go find a caregiver. And what they don't realize is a lot of these businesses, that's exactly the service that they were providing. It is a dispensary on the surface, but behind that, really, it's just a network of caregivers and patients working together. Patient comes in, they just came from the doctor, they're looking for a caregiver, they walk into a dispensary and boom, they find a caregiver. So it's as simple as that, but we've continued to allow the state to muddy the waters, to gray these areas, and to really sort of construe one group to be illegal and one group to be, future potentially illegal, when ideally they're doing the exact same thing. So it's definitely a confusing business. It's definitely a ugly situation, and we need these bills to go through. I don't think that we can say that, I believe that you can still operate even if the bills don't go through, but if we had them, it obviously would add an additional protection. So we need some support for these bills, and I'm going to move on from there. So just wanted to get those talked about. There was another incident that went on. This is, and it's all, basically the theme of today's show is talking about these new dispensaries, these new provisioning centers, and comparing them in contrast to the current system that we have going on made of patients and caregivers. So obviously we've got places around Michigan right now that have blown up with dispensaries, which again I stated are just simply networks of patients and caregivers working together. Lansing has been a hotbed of activity. They've had dispensaries open up, They've seen them get closed back down. They open back up again. And now it seems that the city council in Lansing may potentially close them again. So let me pull up this information for you. It'll take me just a minute to find it. But at any rate, what was going on there is that the city council passed another ordinance basically shutting everyone down again, and sort of going back to previous language that was used but never passed. And it's really quite inadequate when people are looking at, is this actually going to, you know, allow these businesses to operate? It's just inadequate. It's not doing the job. So at any rate, right before the ordinance was to go into action and these places were supposed to be closed down again, patients got together, dispensary owners, you know, basically caregivers and patients got together, got petitions signed. I think they got like 5,000 signatures to prevent this from ever taking action, to prevent this from going into place. Submitted those signatures, and now everything's on hold again in Lansing. So that's the drama that's going on in Lansing. This drama is going on around the state in different communities, and it really is being brought on by the state, which is the unfortunate part. We've got the state who is not really coming out and being clear about how these communities can operate. They're giving out misinformation in some of their meetings, and you know, we have some of these community leaders that want to lead by headlines and not really understanding the details behind things and jumping to conclusions. That's not going to work. We have to have you know, clearly stated objectives here. We have to have clearly followed guidelines that can be easily followed and understood so that everybody can be on the same page, and that has not been done yet. So the mess in Lansing is going to continue, and then that's just one city around the state. So pretty amazing. Without jumping over too much stuff, I want to get into the Michigan Medical Marijuana Licensing Board. They met again yesterday in Lansing at the Kellogg Center, and the lead up to this meeting, basically the board said, look, we're going to talk about a few different items, issues here that we want to discuss for this next public hearing. One of those is going to be, you know, limits on patients buying from dispensaries. You know, how much can they purchase in a single day? Also going to look at potentially limiting THC content. And they basically, you know, they had these things out that they said they were going to go ahead and take a look at. When they got together, they did take a look at some of those items. However, they also did a couple extra things as well, and didn't do some of what they said they were going to. So I want to share with you the results from that meeting yesterday and let you guys chew on it for a while, and then we'll, you know, get your feedback, hopefully. Let me pull this up here. Bear with me. Here we go. All right, so the board did recommend a few different things yesterday, and these are the smaller detailed items. I want to get these out of the way first. All right, so the first thing that the board recommended, now these are not set in stone, these are just recommendations and they're starting points issued by the board. So don't start saying that this is what it's going to be. This is what they're talking about, okay? So the first thing is they talked about, now for those of you that didn't know, they did have a work group get together. They pulled from around the state. They got a very large group of people together and got some ideas from them, got some concerns from them, and they're trying to utilize that information to come up with policies for this new medical marijuana program that they're trying to, you know, install. So one of the things from the group is they want to limit the amount that a patient can purchase in a single day, all right, or, you know, at a particular center. So the work group came up with setting a daily purchasing limit at 2.5 ounces, which is consistent, obviously, with the current patient and caregiver model, all right. There's no limit as far as, you know, how much can a patient transfer or acquire per se in the law, but the limit is that a patient cannot have more than 2.5 ounces. So consequently, obviously, you can't purchase more than you can have in a single setting. So that's pretty easy to go with there. Next thing is work group on processor licenses recommended potentially hazardous marijuana-infused foods like edibles should either be regulated or prohibited. I find that very interesting that the work group would recommend that we prohibit edibles. That seems preposterous, especially when we know that smoking is not the preferred method, by your doctor, of course. So why would we want to eliminate edibles from this new program? I don't know, but that's something they were considering. Next thing is dealing with having to have assets in order to qualify for the program. The group suggested that, let's see here, current pre-existing buildings or infrastructure could count towards their source of equity. And that's just one of the things that they proposed that they could. And we're going to get into that today in detail. So, but those are the few things that came out of the work group that the board then talked about in the meeting. Again, these aren't set in stone, but this is what they're talking about. And I find it preposterous that they would even consider eliminating something like edibles. It just seems ridiculous. Limiting someone's daily purchase amount, that's to be expected when don't see any issues there. I am surprised to see that the state didn't put some sort of a tracking or some sort of limitation on patients to prevent them from going from, say 5 different dispensaries in one day, purchasing, their limit of 2.5 ounces at each one, and then, redistributing that on the black market. They haven't addressed that. I know patients don't want to be tracked, that's for sure. But again, I don't think the state really cares about what patients want. But at any rate, that's where it's at. And I'm surprised that they didn't discuss that. All right, let's get in here and let's talk about what everybody's probably talking about today. And that is the assets requirements for applying to this program. Now, if you've been following this at all, if you've been listening to this podcast in the last 2 years, I was telling you from the very beginning that the new medical marijuana program that the state's trying to get through right now is nothing but a big money grab. It's a big money grab by the people at the state level, our state government, and also by the entrepreneurs that want to get into this, whether they be rich investors, other business owners, whatever. They're currently not in the program, but definitely want their piece of the pie. So this requirement that they've come out with for assets absolutely confirms what I've been saying. It is absolutely a fat cat program. Okay, so let's get into this. All right, we've talked about some of the fees that are going to be tied to these different types of licenses. Okay, whether you're a grower A and you've got 1,500 plants, grower B, C, whether you're a processor, whether you're a delivery, whether you're a testing place, there's different fees that will be associated with requesting that license. Okay, those fees are still the same. They range anywhere from $4,000 to $8,000 on one end, and then it could go from anywhere from $10,000 to $57,000 on another end. Add in your municipality fees of almost $5,000, and now we're starting to add up some serious fees just to get your license through. But this is in addition to the licensing fees. This is something that they're going to require, kind of like you having a certain credit rating score. So you want to go out, you want to buy a house or borrow money to buy a car, you gotta have a certain credit score rating to even get considered. This is kind of like that way of doing that for businesses, and it's doing it by the amount of money that this business has in liquid assets. So we're talking about a bank account of some sort with money in it ready to go for your medical marijuana business, and they want to verify that. What they're looking for, and we're going to get into the amounts here. All right, this is mind-blowing. What the state is doing. All right, let me get pull this up here. Had quite a few different articles that were shared around Michigan, but I thought MLive did a pretty good job of breaking it down. Here we go. All right, I'm going to write these down for you guys so you can see what I'm talking about. All right, so if you're a grower, or you're a wannabe grower, put it that way, and you want to get your license to grow up to 500 plants, right? So that's the smallest one. We're going to put that down. That's Class A. Class A, 500 plants. All right? If if you want to do that, state's saying that you're going to have at least $150,000 in liquid assets to even apply. Okay, so you need 150K. All right, 150K. Class B. This is let's see, 1,000 plants up to 300 grand. I know, right? $300,000. You gotta have it liquid. Liquid, all right? Class C. Can you guys see my chicken scratch okay? John, you see that all right?
Yeah, it looks really good. You can see it.
All right. It doesn't look good. Come on.
I mean, it's like it's in focus. It's in frame. So
1,500 plants for a Class C license.
We're working on penmanship later, but
yeah. $500,000. All right. So that's what you got to have if you want to apply to be a grower under the new program. Now, just like we just mentioned before, with the edibles and the limiting and so on and so forth, these are suggested amounts. They have not been set in stone yet, but these are what they've come up with so far. So there is room for modification if they get enough pressure from little guys. I doubt the big guys are gonna, really give a rat's ass, but this is the beginning. All right. So next, let's move on here. Processing and still plugged in. All right. Processing. Okay. So you guys want to make some concentrates. You want to make edibles if you're allowed to. Maybe you want to make wax, whatever. You're not growing anything, you're not selling anything, you're not testing it, you're just processing, okay? Maybe you're just a trimmer. I don't know. But at any rate, if you want to be a processor, you're going to need 300K. It's an awfully expensive pair of scissors. All right. Next thing is a provisioning center, which everybody's all excited about the provisioning center, right? You want to get rich? Yeah! That's also 300K. Moving on, provisioning center. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, provisioning center. I already did that one. Man, that's some good weed. All right, safety compliance facility. All right, so you want to do some testing? I'm just going to put down testing, not safety compliance. That's 200 grand. And lastly, your transporter. Another 200 grand. Can you believe that, folks? All right, so 200 grand, 300, 500, 300, 150 grand. We're talking some big bucks here. You know what I mean? This is what the state wants you to have in liquid assets in order to apply for the program, okay? They're assuming that you're gonna need this much money to just get started. That's why they want you to have it. They want to, make sure that they're not gonna approve somebody who's gonna go bankrupt in a month. Is it necessary? I say absolutely not. I say it's preposterous. I think these amounts are arbitrary. I don't think they even have a clue what the cost would actually be. And I'll give you an example, all right? Let's look at the transporter right here. Transporter, 200K. You want to be a medical marijuana transporter. You're going to transport meds from A to B. Whatever A and B is, doesn't matter. It's all licensed. You're good to go. You're legal. But you're going to drive around in a van or security truck, whatever, and you're going to deliver weed. Not too big of a deal, not too complicated, right? I can see how you might need 200 grand. You're gonna have to buy an armored truck. Maybe you need an armored van. You gotta pay some security. You're gonna need some insurance bonds. Need a place to store the truck. A few extra, master locks, whatever. All right, 200 grand. Seems like you could probably do that for 200 grand, okay? And you might need that much. Maybe you need more than one security truck. You might need a couple, all right? I bet you a security truck's probably, $100,000 vehicle. I don't know, I've never bought one. But I can see how you might need $200,000. Let's move right up to the next one though, testing. All right, 200 grand for testing. I can tell you that an average gas chromatograph machine, mass spec, costs you anywhere from $50,000 to $90,000 for just one. All right, and that doesn't test everything, it only tests a portion of things. So 200 grand on this one is probably not even adequate. All right, if you want people to test for pathogens like mold and spores and stuff like that, that's an additional machine. If you want people to test Things like edibles, that's another additional machine. You got to have somebody who's got enough brains and training to run the machine. You got to have the materials to supply the machine so it can actually spit out results. 200 grand is not going to get you a full-on testing lab facility. Not even close. All right? So that figure is bull. Makes no sense. Provisioning center, 300 grand. Chad Morrow, who owns or did own a dispensary up in Gaylord that was raided, testified in front of the Senate or in front of the board yesterday and stated, look, I started my own dispensary, got it up and running, and did it all for less than 50 grand. Why do I need to have 300 for you? Another arbitrary amount. And I'm not even going to get into the growers. You guys know, how much money you spend at the grocery store. You know what rental space costs. You know what the electrical bills are like. You might need 150 grand. You might not. You might need $500,000. You might need $3 million. I don't know. What we need to consider this is, look at this, folks. They came out 3 weeks ago and said, look, we will allow all of these businesses to operate under one roof. We'll allow that. There's going to be, certain rules and guidelines that are going to go with that, but we'll allow it. So, you strip mall, whatever, you buy it all out, and then boom, blow the whole thing up, and you got, A, B, C, D all the way down the line, and the transporter, he's there, but he's going like this from one door to the next. But everybody's got to have a license, okay? So you're talking close to, anywhere from, say, at the low end, $15,000 for a license, to the high end, which might be well over $60,000 for a license. And if you're going to be doing all of them, then you're going to have a license for each one, right? They also came out and said about 3 weeks ago that you can stack licenses, meaning if I'm a Class A grower and I'm doing good, or I've got extra money to burn, I can get another Class A license and now grow 1,000 plants. Or more likely what will happen is you'll have ultra rich mega millionaires say, yeah, I got a Class C license. I've got 4 of them. That's what these guys are shooting for. And then they're going to have their own processor, their own transporter, their own tester, so on and so forth. These guys can afford it, all right? We're talking Meyer bucks, right? We're talking Dow Chemical money. We're talking big money that these people can come up with. Your average Main Street person does not have this kind of asset. Doesn't have that kind of capital. It's not going to happen, all right? Your average, I would say probably 98% of the people that are currently in the medical marijuana program in Michigan, people that are, utilizing the program, have been in it, do not have these kinds of assets. It's preposterous. So this is a way for the state to eliminate out a whole lot of people and really sort of segment who is going to be in this program. And it's not going to be your average Joe Blow.
I'm just looking at this, and if a corporation, and this is probably the people who could probably move into this very easily, a corporation.
Sure.
If they would move into this, okay, if our state people's interest in taxation, those larger corporations are going to have accountants already on hand to maybe eliminate their tax bill altogether. So then the revenue that they possibly could get from these small-time growers, and if they allow you to pay taxes on it and do all this stuff, you would be providing a tax base that would pretty much be unchallenged. You wouldn't have accountants trying to find loopholes. They would actually get more income coming in if that's their concern. Is they'd have more concern if they just let it run with the small-time operators.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you've got this going on, this requirement going on right here. And obviously, if you've got to have it, then you got to have it, all right? So that's going to be a cost, in other words. It's going to be a cost. It's going to be a cost to the patient because you've got to have this. Now, you're going to spend this getting the patient's medications to them, but you had to have it to begin with, all right? In addition to that, you also had to have the money for your application fees, which we just talked about those, and they could be quite extensive. In addition to that, we're going to have a 6% sales tax, and you're going to have a 10% excise tax.
You want to pull that a little closer, dude, because what you just wrote was not on camera. Okay, right there.
6 and 10. Okay, so that's going to be tacked on the top. This is all going in before. So this goes in before, this goes on the back end, and the patient is going to be the one paying it all. That's how they planted this thing out. It's amazing, isn't it? And I didn't even get into whatever the municipalities will charge as well. And you can bet that the cities are not going to just, roll over. We already talked about that in one of the programs up here in Bay City. or in Bay County, they had applications rolling in. Pinconning, same thing, rolling in. Townships collecting in excess of 6 figures from these applications and people trying to apply. And that's in addition to what the state's going to be collecting. So it is absolutely a fat cat program. It has absolutely been done with no consideration for the patients. And they continue, our state leaders continue to blunder through this without really having any real knowledge of anything. They're just pulling numbers out of thin air. And the people that they're listening to are these rich fat cat folks who also have zero experience in this industry. They may be business people. They may be very well-versed business people, very successful people in other endeavors, but they did not come from this. It's sickening, folks. This is sickening. All right. Now they are stating that we have the ability to make adjustments on these, that these are not set in stone. But if this is their starting point, then we got a real problem. All right. And this is ridiculous. Okay. Something else I was going to bring up. Oh yeah. If anybody has ever been in medical marijuana and has tried to deal with banking, then you already know what I'm talking about. You cannot have money tied to marijuana or anything else that's federally illegal in a federally insured institution, i.e. a bank. All right? You put your money in the bank because it's insured by the FDIC. So all hell breaks loose, you still get your cash back. All right? That's what that means. Those banks don't get that insurance policy if they break the law. And by letting you put your money in the account for an illegal purpose, one that is against federal law, it still is, that makes the bank illegal. And the bank ain't gonna do it. So the state right now is asking for these people to verify liquid cash amounts, which would probably be in a bank account, for this medical marijuana application. Meanwhile, while no bank would knowingly even hold those funds. It is an oxymoron. It's redundant. It's stupid. Whoever came up with this clearly has no knowledge of how our medical marijuana industry has operated or how it will have to continue to operate. And they're not even bothering to go ask other people who do know. They're just up there issuing decree after decree and with no real care or real knowledge about what they're doing. You can't verify funds that you can't put into a bank. What are people supposed to do? Show up on the steps of the state with a backpack full of cash? Yeah, I've got my 500 Craig. Look right here, count it. It is preposterous, all right? So that's where the state's at right now. That's what they're looking for. And hopefully this stuff will change. They have put together a large group of people from all around the state to offer advisory information. Some of those people in that group are qualified and should be there. There's a lot of other people in that group that have no business being in that group, and the only reason they're in that group is because of money. All right? Guys like Wild Bill Tobacco, all right? One of the main groups around here that's been putting money through the lobbyists to get this thing pushed through. Wild Bill doesn't have anything to do with medical marijuana, but he wants your money. All right, and he'd like to try to get all of your caregivers out of business because you're competition. All right, same thing with like what we just talked about with Arlen Meekoff not being a fan of these businesses. Well, if they're illegal, then they shouldn't be operating. And the issue is that we continue to have our legislators, our leaders, our law enforcement declare things to be illegal that are not illegal. It is not illegal for a patient and a caregiver to work together. It is not. A patient can assign that caregiver to them, and a caregiver can collect remuneration, or whatever you want to call it, compensation for the costs associated with providing that product. This is all legal. It has all been the same since 2008. And as we continue to look at the state's requirements and the state's infrastructure for how they want to set up the new program, I would say that our caregiver and patient model system is looking better and better. All right? Our patients don't have to bear the cost of this. They don't have to have an extra cost over here. And they don't have to go without medication either for a year while you decide whatever it is you want to decide. we've seen this happen across the country. We've seen certain states take the Main Street approach, and we've watched their industries blow up. We've watched their tax revenue generation just be absolutely amazing. And of course, I'm referring specifically to Colorado. It is a very open market out there. It's very competitive, but it is not a $4 or $5 million, millionaire fat cat game like what we're seeing happen in Ohio or states like Florida, where okay, we're going to let people do this, but only 5 of our good buddies. You know what I mean? And that is the fear here. There was a very, very interesting conversation that went on. It was featured in the paper, and I wanted to share it with you because normally I'm not the biggest fan of our Senator Rick Jones. And he has been an opponent to medical marijuana, in my opinion. But he has also been integral in getting certain things moved forward. And he actually stood up for patients and caregivers in his last Senate committee hearing. There was a group from the one of the lobbyist groups, and they were specifically trying to get them to go against this bill package that was produced to allow these places to stay open. So they were taking public hearing on this. The lobbyist group stated, these places shouldn't be allowed to be open. They're already illegal. Why would we continue to condone their illegal activity? Why wouldn't we want a clean slate from the beginning with this new program? All the typical points that they want to share to make themselves look good. Our Senate leader here, Rick Jones, actually called him out and said, called him out on the carpet and said, which millionaire do you work for? Because according to him, he had heard the talk around town in Lansing and how there were a few millionaires who were looking to monopolize this industry, and he is not going to allow that to happen, according to his words. So he called out this lobbyist and basically called him out. Said, look, that's not going to happen here. I know where you're coming from, and it is not a place of public concern, public safety. It is a place of ensuring your own people that are investing in you. And that's what we cannot have. We cannot allow that. So kudos to our Senator Rick Jones. It's the first time I think I've ever said anything positive about the man on this program. I've been hating his guts for 8 years. And finally he steps up and does something that I think was very commendable. So it definitely shows that there is a serious push in Lansing at the legislative level, at the licensing board level as well, from very well-connected, very well-to-do people that want nothing more than their own personal monopoly on this medical marijuana business. So there is definitely a side of that story there. It is real and it is existent. There is also another side of the story where you have 50,000 caregivers in the state, and you have a few leaders who can see through the smoke and mirrors on this side and realize that, number one, patients need accessibility, and number two, we need to have a viable open market when it comes to this medical marijuana business and not have a monopoly present. So, two sides of the coin here. We are definitely duking it out in Michigan, and we're going to have to see how the chips fall. All right, what we need to have is continued pressure on our legislators and on our Department of L.A.R.A. They are listening, they are keen, and they are aware that people are closely watching every move they make when it comes to this new program. And we need to do that. We need to keep the spotlight on them and expose every false sense of direction that they're trying to send to us, because, again, nobody wants to see this turn into a monopoly other than the people who have the money to do so. And we cannot let that happen, folks. We can't let that happen for a lot of reasons. All right. So there you go. I wanted to break that down for you today, guys, because it blew my mind when I saw it. I was like, you got to be kidding me. And, you add all these up. All right. So let's say you got the Class C. Somebody's got the dough to do this, right? So you got Class C, 500, 300, 300 here. So right there, that's 1.1 million. Plus another 4. Now I need $1.5 million, and basically I can go ahead and get my license for everything. Top dog, Class C, 1,500 plants, and put it all in one. And there's a lot of guys out there who are trying to do that, and they want multiple Class C licenses. So to me, that's disgusting. And I would hope that our patients are smart enough to not support these types of businesses when they do come online, realizing that the only people that they were really hurting were themselves. Meaning the patients. All right. They're disgusting. One more thing I wanted to share with you on today's program is the ability to stay informed and to be educated. L.A.R.A is putting on around the state educational seminars that are free and are available in regards to the new program. They're going to be talking about what the licensing requirements are, going to be talking about, you know, their different rules, and nothing's set in stone yet. So even though they're already holding these meetings, they don't even have all the answers yet. But whatever information is that they do have, they are giving it out. It is free, and you can check it out for yourself. If you go to Michigan's L.A.R.A department and just type in, you know, L.A.R.A medical marijuana on Google, it'll pull it right up, and you guys can check it out. You can check out all the updates that have been issued and so on, and just keep yourself informed. All right, there's a lot of misinformation about this, and the unfortunate thing is the misinformation is on every level. So it's not just your caregiver that you're talking to or your patient on the street. It's your township officials, it's the state police, it's our legislators. Everybody's got different opinions of what is happening and what's going on and what's going to happen, and until the state actually lays it down in writing, we don't know. All right, so the best way to be informed is to stay informed, to get, you know, in tune with things. So just pull that up, check it out for yourself. There was one other thing I wanted to share with you, and I think this also helps highlight the inadequacies of our Michigan Medical Marijuana Licensing Board. One of the things that they looked at doing yesterday in the meeting was that they wanted to put certain THC limits on certain products. Now, of course, everybody freaks out when they hear this kind of thing, and they think, are you kidding me? You're going to try to limit the amount of medicine that's in my medicine? You know, shouldn't I be the one as a patient to decipher whether or not I've had enough? Point aside, what they did is and again, they didn't set it in stone, but they suggested, and again, this highlights the idiocracy of this board and the amazing amount of no knowledge that they have. All right. One of the things that they were looking at doing was limiting the amount of THC that would be available in a topically infused product. For those of you that have been in this business, for those of you that know about topical products, you understand the idiocracy in that statement. All right. Let me explain this to you folks. You cannot get high from a topical marijuana infused product. It is a pain reliever. It is similar to like Aspirin cream, okay? It's something that you put on. It can relieve muscle, joint pain, but there is zero psychoactive effect to that. You could take a bath in it and you're not gonna get high, all right? You will absorb THC in your system, all right? I'm not telling you to do this and then go try and pass a drug test. I'm telling you, it's not psychoactive. So there's no reason why you would ever want to limit the amount of THC in that type of a product. It is probably, out of all the marijuana products, which all of them are benign, meaning you can't get killed by any of them. Doesn't matter how much you use, it isn't going to hurt you. There's no lethal dose rating on any marijuana product. And you want to go and take the most benign one of all of them, the topical, and limit the amount of THC that's in that product? It's just stupid. 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 All right. At least they are taking input. They were taking input on it, and I hope I'm not the only person that told them that's a dumb thing to do. But it certainly highlights the lack of information that this board has. All right. And I think it should also give us the impetus to put pressure on them, to educate them, and to ensure that they don't come up with some silly type of regulation like that. You know, just like in Canada. All right. So obviously there's a resounding theme going on here. If you look at what happened in Canada, the only type of medical marijuana that you can get in Canada is in flower form. They don't have edibles. And it's interesting that that was also proposed here in Michigan. Very, very interesting. And I guarantee you, no patient advocate, no caregiver advocate would ever recommend that we don't allow edibles to be part of the system. That's just, again, it's stupid. Right? It's stupid. I guess in summary, I do want to say, you know, looking at this new program, looking at these new laws, these new regulations, and so on, the one nice comforting thing about all of this is, I guess for people like me that have no way of ever being involved in this kind of a setup, you know, it's not there. But for people like me, the comfort in all of this right here is it just makes the patient caregiver model system look all that much better. I think it is actually, things like this are a nail in the coffin to the new system. All right? Patients aren't going to want the added cost. And also, there's a certain amount of loyalty, I guess I would put it, customer loyalty. Why would a patient want to go run to these guys who are fat cat millionaires who've never done anything but profit off the backs of other people's hard work and efforts? Why would you want to go support them? I certainly wouldn't. And I don't think our patient base is going to want to either. So that being said, all of these things which are ugly, which personally I don't care for, I think they're outlandish. The inadequacies of the board, the lack of information on their part and making decisions, all of those things make the patient and caregiver model system look that much more appealing. And I believe that most of our patients and caregivers are going to stay doing exactly what they're doing unless the state can quickly and radically modify their train of thought in creating this new program. So that's what I got to share with you guys today. All right, got it off my chest. I feel better. I hope you guys are more informed. I hope you can spread this information, and I hope that you'll take a chance to educate yourselves. Go to the Michigan L.A.R.A website, type in medical marijuana, read the different releases that are out there, because I am sick and tired of misinformation. You know, when you talk to people that are in positions of authority and they are clearly misinformed, it is discouraging to your average citizen. So don't be one of those people. Don't spread rumors. Don't spread BS. Know the facts, and then we can actually help get to the bottom of things. Maybe actually make a positive change. All right, so that's it. Thanks for joining me this week. I appreciate you guys being here. Let's stay vigilant. Stay together. Stay contacted, man. Get down to the G3C. Make sure you mark off Halloween on your calendar that you're going to come party with us. And man, have a great week. All right, guys, enjoy it. It's supposed to be beautiful weather. It's probably the last week of beautifulness we're going to have for a while. So get out there and enjoy it. All right. Thank you very much for being with me. John, thanks for being in the studio. Guys, check out allpointstv.com for other important information about Flint. And check back here at the Genesee County Compassion Club for all your other information. Appreciate it. You guys have a great week. See you.